Alright, what's up guys? So just to start the video off, I'm gonna have gameplay on in the background, but nothing on the screen is gonna be relevant to what I'm talking about. So if you wanna watch, feel free to, and if not, feel free to just throw me on like a different tab or something. But with that being said, let's get right into the video. So as you can see, the title of this video, it's gonna be talking about one really big issue that I think needs to be fixed in Dark and Darker that I think has kind of persisted for a very, very long time. Um, and that is movement speed. Movement speed has been one of the biggest issues in the game for pretty much its entire existence. It has led to the development and the dominance of a lot of comps and a lot of metas, specifically buffball. And this is not just recent buffball or, like Bard buffball. This is even way back to the point of Barbarian, Wizard, Cleric back in playtest, like, 3, 4, 5, like all the way back. This has been something that has been going on and been a problem in the game for a very, 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 very long time, and it still is. If you play solos, you know exactly what I'm talking about because this isn't just a buff ball issue or a trios issue or duos issue. This is relevant to every game mode. And solos is where you see it exhibited like pretty much the most because in solos, if you're not faster than someone, you basically have zero kill potential on them, and they are just going to outrun you and they're going to run away from you. And if it's like a rogue or a ranger build, where like especially rangers, I think, are the really big offenders of this. Is where you have these ranger builds where they just don't take it, they just don't run a chest piece, and they run like really light armor, so they're like 320, 325 move speed, and they just run around and they just kite you, and there's nothing you can do. Rogues are the exact same with hand crossbows. Warlocks and wizards the exact same way. And recently we had epidemic, I guess you could say, of this movement speed barbarian build that has been really, really hard to fight. This was dominating solos, duos, and trios, where they just kind of ran around the map. They had crush, so they could break doors, and you could just never catch them. And even if you did hit them with like range damage or something, it's a barbarian, so they're so tanky they can kind of just shrug it off and keep going. And like I said, other than this, even outside of like solos or like this ratting playstyle which the barbarians were doing, move speed has just been kind of like it's one of the only stats that you absolutely have to go for it. Because you have things like true damage or add fizz, that you can roll on like rings or gloves. And it's like, yeah, it's nice to have, but you don't need it. Movement speed on boots, it is like one of those stats that it's just you just have to have it. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. You just have to have it. And that's all there is. And it's been like that literally forever. If you guys remember a few wipes ago, we used to be able to roll movement speed on legs, and they eventually changed that, so now it's only on boots. However, one of the biggest problems when it comes to movement speed isn't movement speed rolls, because a lot of people are like, oh, just get rid of movement speed rolls on boots. I'm like, okay, cool, that doesn't do anything. That just equally removes everybody's move speed, and then the move speed disparity is still there. Because that's probably what I should be looking at, or like really talking about. It's not just movement speed, it's the disparity between characters with movement speed. Because you have some of these characters that are like 320, 330 move speed, and then you have some that are like 280, 290. And even, something that's like a 10 move speed gap, let's say like 290 to 300, is very, very noticeable. Because then you have to add in things like weapons being move speed, like, counting, all of the other things that also, lower your move speed or raise your move speed or whatever, like buffs, yada, yada, all of these things. And it gets to a point where if somebody is faster than you, it pretty much removes your ability to play the game. Whether that is from running away from them or trying to chase after them, there is very, very little you could do, and it's usually more on them to mess up rather than it is for you to have your own agency to do anything. And it gets to the point where that just feels really, really bad. And I think, HR players or people that are very experienced in this game are very used to it by now. Even if they don't like it, it's something they're used to. There are ways to attempt to work around it, like invis pots on really fast characters, that type of thing. But for newer players getting into the game, especially like, moving from norms to HR, this is one of the things that you have to like realize. And it's like a really big curve is the giant emphasis that is put onto movement speed. It makes it really, really hard to swap over before you get used to that. And then there's another reason why in solos, a lot of people like talk about balance for solos. Solos almost never balance because it's almost always whichever class can move the fastest while still doing damage is the best character. Historically speaking, Slayer, Barbarian, Rogue have almost always been the best classes in the game for solos. Now, Slayer's not that great because you have things like Rondo Fighter, which is another one. It's a really, really fast character that has really, really high damage. and it just makes it really, really unfun to play because completely ignoring everything talking about balance or anything, it just makes the game unfun, right? Like that's what it is. Because at the end of the day, you're playing a game. You're playing the game to have fun. If you're not having fun, what's the point? And I think movement speed has been something that they've shown they cannot balance it, or they're trying to balance it, and they're struggling to balance it for a very, very long time. This has come in the form of they're nerfing the move speed cap. They nerf skills that give move speed. Sprint, rage, um, accelerando, like all of these other things that give move speed. They've continuously been trying to nerf them over and over and over. But even then, the game still feels very, very bad to play for these slower classes. So what do you do? Well, there are a few things you could do. I don't know if there's any like definitive like okay, do this, it fixes it, boom, problem solved, because it's a very complex issue. My recommendation, or what I've my thought process on this and what I think would be best to fix it, is they need to either make armor heavier, or like increase like certain move speed penalties. So like doing things, like I don't even know, like closing doors or something is slower. That's not move speed, but that is still in the same ballpark of the argument of like having move speed, right? Like that's just one of those things. Or another thing is you need to make certain classes capable of hitting certain speeds, right? Like let's take rogue and ranger for example. Generally the two fastest classes in the game. Like let's say you set them at 300 move speed, that like they can't exceed that, right? Like that is their move speed. However, then you have things like fighter and barbarian, set them at like 280, 285. So then they're not that fast. Like they're still, it's not like that big of a difference, but the one class is still faster because that's the big thing is these certain classes that's like yes their base move speed is so high, but they can afford to build it, which makes it way more annoying to actually fight. Because a class like a barbarian, if they want to build move speed, they have to build their entire kit around it. And whenever they do have a lot of move speed, it feels really, really bad to fight because now you have this class that's incredibly tanky running at you at 330 move speed and it's faster than any other class in the game. And this is annoying for, tankier classes because you can't really fight them. Like you can't catch them to fight them. This is annoying for squishy classes because then they just run you down and you can't do anything about them. And then you have classes like Warlock that just perma-kite. Like there are a lot of Warlock builds out there, melee with Blow of Corruption or just spells with their book that are easily running 300 plus move speed. With book out, I've seen Warlocks running 310. And then it's just like you just can't fight that. Like if you're not similar, like the only way to combat their move speed is if you are the exact same move speed, and that just like to me doesn't like I don't like the only way to beat this is by also using it, because whenever you talk about that, that's almost always you're talking about something that's broken and unhealthy for the game. Is the only counter to it is itself. Like that is not good. That is not a healthy game that you were playing. And then moving forward, into next wipe, I really, really want to see some changes. Like I said, I don't just removing move speed rolls on boots doesn't work. If they really want to, you could remove all move speed rolls from the game, like agi, move speed, all of those, because then it kind of sets characters at a move speed bonus, and it's kind of dependent on the armor you wear, and then it won't feel quite as bad. But even then, it's still just not gonna feel fantastic. I know there's been a lot of like suggestions like floated around things like imagine like a chasing movement speed bonus where if you're running at somebody then either you're faster or like after a certain time you get faster, think like a Dead by Daylight style thing, where you're chasing someone you eventually like speed up. And I don't know. I don't hate the idea. I think that'd be cool to try, but overall, I don't really think that would work. I think you could add more utility to slow people down. Think like how the goblins have bolas, something like that. More things that you could do to outplay these people. Because just shooting somebody with like a ranged weapon that doesn't like yeah you do a little damage to them, but that doesn't really catch them or anything, right? Like it's not like they're just gonna keep running and they're gonna heal and they're gonna outrun you far enough that they can heal with it. And then like it just gets really, really, like I said, it's really unfun to play. And that's really what it boils down to. If you have something in your game that is so like dominant that just kind of ruins the game for a lot of people and a lot of classes, it needs to be fixed in my opinion. It just shouldn't stay. And like I said, I truthfully like I don't have the definitive answer to fix this. I think there are a lot of things they could do, but in terms of okay, you do this, fix, problem solve, I don't think it's there. Because a lot of maps, that's one thing. Because we have Ruins coming back next wipe too. Ruins was the biggest offender of this movement speed kiting meta, especially in trios. This was like back when Ruins was around. the comps you fought were almost always Ranger, Rogue, Wizard, Warlock. It was these like quad or not quad, but triple DPS comps built out of these four characters. And the map was so open, they had so much space, there just wasn't much you could do. They would literally just run around as much as they wanted. And like, yeah, you could like try to chase them and you could, you can make them run, but unless they want to turn around and fight you, you cannot catch them. And I know like people are gonna be like, oh, uh, fucking like, oh, you want to be tanky and you want to be like move fast. Like you're not supposed to be able to catch those characters. Like, okay, yes, if they are just gonna run, maybe I shouldn't be able to catch them. Whatever. It is what it is. I can see your point there. I think it's fair. However, they should not be able to run from me and like make me completely unable to ever catch them while also kiting me and doing damage. Like it's one thing if you put your weapon up and you just full on W key away and run, and I can't catch you. That's fine. However, if you were sitting there like with a bow out or a book out, casting spells, shooting arrows at me while I'm actively trying to chase you, no weapons out, and I still can't get you, that's kind of a problem. Because at the point it's like why? Like what's the point? Like I just have to. My only play is being fast enough to get to you, or being tanky enough to survive the damage you're gonna do to me until I make it there. But with that being said, that kind of wraps it up for this talk on move speed. Like I said, I really, really think it needs to be fixed. I don't even think like buffs are the problem. Like things like haste, accelerando, like all of those. I don't even think those are really an issue because those are like limited things. You can outplay them, you can kite them out, you can wait them out, you can do whatever, you can buy time. But just whenever there's somebody that's just flat 320, 325 move speed, you just can't do anything about that. They just outrun you permanently, and you just don't get a chance to play the game. And it's just not very fun. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for me. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts or opinions on this yourself, feel free to leave them down below. I will read them. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.